My lifelong faith in lasting love and commitment shattered the moment I uncovered her deception. My parents, together for many years, demonstrated a strong partnership. I held onto those hopes into my adult years, convinced they would protect me from pain. But existence, as I would soon discover, has a brutal method of destroying even the deepest convictions. When I met Rachel, she seemed like my destined partner. She embodied everything I hoped for: intelligent, humorous, and attractive. We were constantly together, creating a life filled with happiness and common aspirations. Or so I believed. In hindsight, I see how foolish I was, overlooking minor warnings and dismissing concerns. My entire existence collapsed the day I learned Rachel had been disloyal, destroying the fantasy I had cherished for so long. Sitting alone, I couldn't help but reflect on how profoundly my situation had changed. A year had passed since my marriage ended in infidelity. After discovering my wife's unfaithfulness, I chose separation and the solitary existence it brought. With no children or relatives nearby, loneliness became my constant companion. Ironically, that isolation sparked a perilous fascination. I found myself fixated on another man's spouse. Whether it was affection, desire, or a twisted form of retaliation, I couldn't be certain. But one thing was undeniable: vengeance fueled my obsession. I barely knew her. Though we frequently encountered each other during lunch, she worked in my building. I gathered as much information as possible and resolved to pursue her. But then what? The notion of wanting her so intensely, even if by force, felt overwhelming. I knew she was about 30, petite, with noticeable curves. She wore revealing clothing, perhaps without undergarments. Her husband appeared oblivious, a failure who didn't value her. And worst of all, he was the man who had ruined my union by sleeping with my wife. Now, I intended to make him pay by taking his wife. I thought claiming her would even do her a favor. If it isn't obvious yet, I'm unstable. Since discovering my wife's infidelity, I've been altered. One day, I arrived home early and went straight to my bedroom to discover her with someone else. She screamed and he, caught off guard, didn't even grasp what was happening until I grabbed him and flung him away. I repeatedly struck him while my wife continued to shriek. I dragged him to the exit and forcefully tossed him onto the street, tossing his wallet and keys into the lawn, but leaving his garments behind. He staggered to his vehicle, a wreck, and drove off. I didn't see him again until fate intervened later. After that, I confronted my wife, who was hastily dressing. "Kevin, this doesn't appear as it seems. We can mend this," she cried. "Not how it looks," I retorted. "Did you sleep with him or not?" "Please, let me explain," she begged. I cut her off. "Did you or didn't you? It's a simple inquiry." When she couldn't respond, I stated, "Conversation over. I'm leaving. You have 1 hour to pack and depart. If you're still here when I return, I'll remove you myself." 1 hour, that's it. I left the house and returned 2 hours later, hoping she'd be gone. I meant what I said. I would have harmed her if she stayed, wife or not. When I got back, she was gone, along with most of her belongings. She left a note. At first, I didn't want to read it, but I changed my mind. Rachel's note read, "Dear Kevin, I made a huge mistake. Jim holds no meaning for me. He was just an old school friend I bumped into. We dated back then, and you knew I wasn't a virgin when we married. Jim was my first love, and old memories don't fade easily. We met at the mall, and it felt nice, like catching up with an old friend. He flirted, and I reminisced. I foolishly invited him over, showed him the house, and when we got to the bedroom, he kissed me, and it felt like old times. Then things went too far. I regret it so much. I wish it hadn't happened. I'm sorry for hurting you. Please take me back. I love you and always will. Rachel." Reading her note now, with a name for the other man, cut deeper. I had loved Rachel, but for me, affection could perish, and in this instance, it transformed into retribution. Revenge isn't a choice. It's something you're driven to execute, and I was determined to have mine. The next day, I took time off work to close our shared checking and savings accounts. I canceled most of our credit cards, leaving only 2 in my name for my expenses. I'm resolute, and I admit it. Rachel's father, George, called me, inquiring about the situation. Frustrated, I replied, "Didn't you have the courage to ask your daughter directly?" I continued, "Listen, George, I caught Rachel in bed with a former friend of mine. I don't forgive, so I expelled her. She took what she desired, and she won't see another cent from me. If she wants to go to court, that's her decision. Otherwise, I suggest you stay out of it." Then I hung up. 2 days later, Rachel's younger sister, Karen, called and requested to speak. I told her, "Go ahead, I'm listening." She began saying Rachel was sorry, but I interrupted her. "I don't care how sorry she is. If you utter her name again, I'm ending this call. Your deceitful sister is out of my existence." Karen then asked if Rachel left any possessions at the house. I told her she had an hour to take what she wanted. If she forgot anything, tough luck. Karen mentioned a few items, and I felt anger surge. I responded sharply, "Karen, come over and spend the night with me in my bed, and you can take whatever you want for your sister." She shrieked back, "You repulsive idiot. Wait until I tell my husband. You'll deal with him. Does that mean I won't get to sleep with you? I always thought you'd be good in bed." Her husband eventually came over, but he posed no threat. I could hear Rachel in the background on a phone call, screaming, "Kevin, you fool!" Before I disconnected, I contacted my attorney to initiate divorce proceedings, ensuring Rachel wouldn't receive anything. We only possessed a rented residence and separate vehicles. I made it clear I would only communicate with Karen and solely on my conditions. I was resolved to maintain control. Karen was even more appealing than Rachel, several years younger and married to a feeble husband. As I prepared to relocate, I called her to collect Rachel's items. I stated that if she didn't, I'd discard them. She agreed to come that evening, and I instructed her not to bring Rachel. When Karen arrived alone, I inquired about her husband, but she said he was occupied. She understood what I desired, and I knew she wouldn't resist. We entered the bedroom where Rachel's belongings were. When she reached for a container, I stopped her. "You haven't compensated for it yet," I stated. She stared at me. "You can't be serious. I'm not going to be intimate with you." I chuckled. "Not love, just sex. You've considered this for a long time." Tension filled the space as I stepped closer and kissed her. The moment was intense, the barrier between us gone. "Tell me what you want, Karen," I whispered. "Kevin, please," she murmured. "Just promise me it's safe." "You're just like your sister," I replied, letting the implication settle. We crossed the boundary that night, ending in silence as I loaded her car with Rachel's things. Before she departed, she yelled, "You're heartless, Kevin." "What happened to you?" "He's gone. Your sister ensured that," I said coldly. "Take what you came for and leave. Inform your husband, but don't return." She called me a fool as she drove away. I knew I only acted this way to spite Rachel. Sex wasn't love. It was merely a component of my need for vengeance. I realized it wouldn't resolve anything, but I was determined to make those who wronged me suffer, no matter the expense. Her name was Carly, a charming, slender woman I observed almost daily. The craving I felt when I saw her was overwhelming. She often came to the eatery with her companions, laughing and enjoying existence. One of those companions was Marka, an acquaintance of mine. We would greet each other casually, and she knew about my marital separation. Rumors spread rapidly in a small community. One day, Marka came to the restaurant alone, and I invited her to dine. She hesitated but joined me. We conversed about her family, her husband's promotion, and general life updates. She asked about me and how I was managing post-divorce. Everyone knew Rachel had cheated, but no one knew who it was with, and I never disclosed that detail. I asked Marka about the new woman at their workplace. She said her name was Carly and that she and her husband, Jim, had relocated to town about a year prior. The name Jim made me uneasy. Marka noticed and cautioned, "Kevin, Carly is happily married. You're not planning to flirt with her, are you?" Everyone knew my hardened demeanor since the divorce. "I just think Carly is beautiful," I said. I was curious about her identity. Marka shared more about Jim, and I needed to confirm if he was who I suspected. If he was, I was resolved to be intimate with Carly, no matter how much I detested myself for it. One lunchtime, while sitting with a friend who never delved into my personal affairs, Carly and her husband entered. It was him, the man I'd caught with my wife. My blood boiled, but I maintained my composure. He didn't recognize me. He'd only seen me for a moment before I struck him. But I knew him. I decided right then I'd do to his wife what he did to mine. One day, I approached Carly when she was alone at the restaurant. I introduced myself as Marka's friend to put her at ease. She smiled and introduced herself. I invited her to sit with me, jesting that she'd have to pay for her own meal, which made her laugh. We sat together, and she shared details about her existence, mentioning that her husband, Jim, had transferred here a little over a year ago. She talked about a difficult beginning, how Jim was assaulted by two men, robbed, and required stitches above his left eye. He had filed a police report, but the attackers were never apprehended. This clarified why he never reported me to the authorities. After lunch, I told her it was nice meeting her and that she was welcome to join me anytime. I found myself in a predicament. I genuinely liked Carly and didn't want to harm her, but I still felt the need for retribution. I saw her often, usually with colleagues, and she would smile at me. One day, I mentioned I'd be having lunch an hour later than usual. The next day, Carly also had lunch late and joined me alone. We began dining together regularly and grew close, and I started developing strong feelings for her. One day I told her, "You're one of the sweetest, most beautiful women I've encountered. If you weren't married, I'd ask you out." She looked anxious and said, "I'm married, Kevin. My marriage isn't perfect, but I could never betray my husband." "I can't. It's wrong." I asked her, "What's wrong with your marriage?" Tears welled in her eyes as she said, "I think my husband is cheating on me, but I'm not certain." I held Carly's hand, trying to comfort her as she trembled. I couldn't comprehend how someone could neglect such a wonderful woman. My thoughts turned to Jim and the possibility he might be with Rachel again. I told Carly I needed to speak with her privately and asked if she'd meet me after work. "Kevin, I can't go to your apartment. What would people think?" she said. "Carly, this is important. I care about you too much not to tell you," I replied. She hesitated. "I think I trust you, Kevin. I like you, but I don't know you well enough to be alone in my apartment. Can we talk here? Maybe in a car or at a restaurant?" "Okay, we'll meet here, and I'll treat you to dinner." She smiled. "It must be serious if you're treating me to dinner," she joked. I needed to determine what to express without alienating her. What began as retaliation had transformed into genuine emotions. I hadn't planned to fall for another man's spouse, but here I was. At dinner, Carly brought up that she had spoken with Marka and learned about my divorce and how I had discovered my wife with another man. She expressed her sympathy, admitting that she feared facing a similar betrayal with her own husband. "Carly, there's something I need to tell you. I know you're married, but I'm falling in love with you," I said. "Kevin, please don't," she replied, her voice quivering. "I'm married. I have to say this, Carly," I continued. "My wife's deceit changed me. People say I've become a bitter man, and they're right. I wanted revenge. My intention was to find my wife's lover's partner and be with her, even flaunt it in front of him if necessary." "Kevin, you don't have to share this," Carly said, interrupting, sensing the anguish behind my words. "Let me finish," I insisted. "The woman I planned to use for my retribution, the woman I would have pursued no matter the cost, is you, Carly. And now, despite everything, I've fallen in love with you." Carly covered her face, realizing it was true. Her husband was the man I caught, and she was the woman I'd fallen for. Tears streamed down her cheeks. "This is so hard to believe." How do you know for sure? Were you really planning to hurt me to get back at him?" she asked, weeping. I reached out to comfort Carly, but she pulled away. "Please don't touch me. I need time to think." "A year ago, I found a man named Jim in my bedroom," I said, my voice low and strained. "I struck him and threw him out with nothing but his name. I didn't know anything else about him." I handed Carly the note I had kept from Rachel. She read it, and her tears flowed even more heavily. "For 6 months, I watched you come into the restaurant," I continued. "I waited for the opportunity to meet you. You became the sole light in my dark days. I fell in love with you before I even knew you were married. When Marka told me about your husband, I felt torn apart. Then one day, I saw him meet you for lunch, and I realized who he was. It took everything in me not to confront him right then. If you had been anyone else, my revenge would have unfolded long ago." Carly sat down, her hands clasped tightly, weeping. I pressed on. "But I love you, Carly, and I couldn't bring myself to harm you. My desire for retribution was strong, but the thought of causing you pain stopped me. I want to make love to you, not out of vengeance, but because it's been so long since I felt genuine affection. I believe Jim is back with Rachel, now that she's divorced, but I need to know how you feel about me. I need to know so I can decide what comes next. No matter what, I won't hurt you. I know I've been cold and vengeful, but there's more to me. There's a side that wants to be kind, a side buried under a year's worth of pain. You could be the one to bring that man back to life. I leaned forward, eyes searching hers. Help me, Carly. Help me take my revenge on Jim, and maybe we can find a way to build a life together, one where we can be happy. Kevin, this is so overwhelming, Carly said. I have so many questions and I don't know how I feel about you, my husband, or myself right now. I need time to process this. Please understand, I'm not trying to push you away. I want to help, but I'm confused and don't know what to do. After a tense dinner, I walked Carly to her car and apologized for upsetting her. I told her she deserved to know the truth and promised to do whatever it took to resolve things for both of us. Sharing my feelings might not have been the best move, but I needed her to know. She even allowed a brief embrace before leaving. I hadn't solved anything. In fact, I might have worsened it. Maybe telling her about her husband was a mistake. I just hoped everything would turn out okay for her. The next day, I was eager to see her at lunch. I went to our usual spot, but she didn't appear. Anxiety set in. Had she quarreled with her husband? Was he hurting her? If he had, I would have made him pay. Or maybe she told him about me and who I was. Her absence tormented me, and I struggled to focus at work, doing anything to distract myself from my worry. When I arrived home, my phone rang. It was Carly, and she sounded distressed. Kevin, I need to see you. Everything has changed, and I have to come over tonight. Can I come in? She asked urgently. Carly, I was worried when you didn't show up for lunch. Did he hurt you? If he did, I'll take care of it. Come over now. I'm here waiting, I replied. As soon as I hung up, the doorbell rang. I opened it to find Carly standing there, a faint smile on her face. I followed you home to see if you truly meant what you said, she admitted. When I heard you on the phone, I knew you were sincere. I'm sorry for testing you, but I needed to be sure. Feeling a wave of relief, I pulled her into a tight hug. Why didn't you come to lunch? I asked. I spent last night sorting out my thoughts. Jim came home late and claimed he'd been working. I tried to be affectionate, but he brushed me off and went to bed, she said. If a man turns down someone like Carly, he's either insane or checked out, I thought. I waited until he left for work this morning and did some investigating on his computer, she continued. I know my way around computers from my job, so I searched for hidden files and emails using what you told me. I found some things. Here's what I discovered. She handed me crucial information and offered to summarize so I didn't have to read everything. First, I need to tell you I don't love Jim anymore. After everything I've uncovered, I think I despise him. I can't tolerate being exploited, and that's something I'm wary of with you too, she said. I squeezed her hands, and she continued, I'm uncertain about my feelings for you. Part of me cares about you, but another part warns me to be cautious. You might just be using me for revenge and then discard me. For now, I want to pause our relationship. If you truly care, you'll wait until things are clearer for both of us. What do you say? I smiled and said, that's all I'm asking, for a chance to prove myself. I care about you deeply, and if I'm moving too quickly, just tell me to slow down. Before we start delving into this, can we seal it with a kiss? Carly grinned. No, let's dive into this now. She took a deep breath and began. My husband applied for this position. He wasn't transferred as he claimed. He requested it. That was his first fabrication. This is his hometown, and I didn't question it. I thought he wanted to reconnect with his roots. I loved him, so I agreed. 16 months ago, he attended a high school reunion. Did your ex-wife go to that, and did you attend? No, I replied. I was at my mom's birthday celebration that weekend. My wife did have a homecoming event then, but I was out of town for business. I even asked if she wanted to come with me, but she said she preferred to see her old friends. I didn't think much of it until now. You're a natural investigator. Carly handed me a stack of printed emails. These are messages they exchanged before the reunion, not love letters, but clear plans to meet. And these are from during the reunion itself. By the time you caught them together 4 months later, they'd already been involved for a while. A surge of fury shot through me as I remembered that deceitful cheater had the audacity to say, "Oh, honey, it's not what you think. It just happened." I thought my retribution was complete with my ex-wife, and I was focused only on Jim. But now everything had shifted. Carly saw the anguish in my eyes. I reassured her I wasn't angry at her, just enraged at being betrayed by my ex-wife. I looked at Carly and said, I need a kiss to calm down. or I'll end up punching the wall. I stood up and moved toward it. "Stop, crazy man. I'll kiss you," she said, rushing over. She hugged me and kissed me softly. When our lips parted, I kissed her again, deeper this time. She pulled back and said, "That's enough, Tiger. I'm only human." We sat down, and I thanked her. She smiled and said, "It is my pleasure. Now, back to work. I can't stay here all night." We shared a knowing laugh. "Here are copies of my husband's phone records from the past year," Carly said, handing me the documents. "This number appears almost daily. I found out it belongs to Rachel Miller, your ex-wife's maiden name. I didn't even know she had taken it back, or that she had a cell phone. When was it purchased?" I glanced through the records and nodded. "Based on these, about a month before I caught them together." This explains how they managed to keep it concealed for so long, and why she didn't push for more during the divorce. She knew if this came out, it would damage her case. I looked at Carly. "But what about you? You're still married. What do you want us to do?" I asked, emphasizing the word us. Her eyes narrowed with resolve. "I want him to regret everything, face public humiliation, and restore my dignity and yours. But how can I do this without becoming an adulterer myself?" "Can you stay in his house for a couple of weeks without revealing anything?" I asked. "Sure, as long as I don't have to sleep with him. I can handle preparing dinner if he keeps sneaking off to see her," she replied. "First, start by shopping during your lunch breaks. Use joint credit cards with both your names to keep things clean. Buy whatever you like and accumulate some debt. Take out cash advances and put that money into savings or investments," I suggested. Carly's eyes met mine, a flicker of hope mixed with caution. "Kevin, you're a stockbroker. Can you invest for me? I didn't want you to question my intentions, but yes, I can handle that for you if you wish," I said sincerely. "I care about you and want your trust, and if one day you decide to be with me, I want it to be for more than just revenge." We agreed to begin with the credit cards. Before Carly left, I asked if I'd get another kiss. She hugged me, kissed me deeply, and pressed against me before pulling away. "Damn, you're good. See you tomorrow at lunch," she said, smiling as she got in her car. The next day, instead of lunch, we went to several banks, using her joint credit cards, withdrawing thousands in cash advances. This gave her a month to complete transfers before payments were due. She was astute and didn't max out any cards, leaving room in case he used them. We found out he was charging motel stays twice a week on one card. Over 3 days, we used 7 cards. I deposited the checks, investing in tax-exempt government bonds and secure accounts under my name to prevent her husband from accessing them. Carly was added as a co-signer, so I couldn't withdraw without her consent, a gesture to build her confidence. I started searching for updates on my ex-wife but found little. Carly, using her connections, discovered Rachel was now working as a secretary at her husband's company. They had become careless after cheating for so long, assuming no one was observing. Carly's friends began documenting everything with notes and photographs. Carly was well-liked by her colleagues, respected for her computer abilities, and never made anyone feel embarrassed. She moved between offices, assisting others, and they felt protective of her. I still struggled with my plans for retribution. I couldn't hurt Carly. She was the only positive aspect of my life. Though my ex was out of the picture, I wouldn't mind some compensation for her long-term affair. But how? Carly admitted she couldn't be intimate with me yet. Doing so would make her no better than her deceitful husband or my ex. She cared about me, but was still married. I needed a new strategy. I reached out to Big Louie, a friend and client involved in less than reputable operations, for assistance. He chuckled when I explained my scheme, saying, "This won't be free, you know." I agreed, understanding the stakes. Carly and I met to finalize the blueprint. I assured her I would never harm or humiliate her. She smiled and said, "I think I'm truly falling for you." I asked her to take a couple of days off. Everything had to proceed smoothly. "What's the plan, Kevin?" Carly asked. "Wednesday, they booked room 109. I'll set up a remote camera there in the morning. You'll meet with my lawyer, Sally Hawk, to prepare divorce papers for Jim to sign." "What if he refuses?" Carly asked. "He won't," I said. "Trust me, the repercussions will be clear." Carly nervously assented. I explained that Jim would arrive early, and Big Louie would show up with 2 women who weren't working due to health issues. Jim would be pressured to engage with them, and when Rachel arrived, she'd have to decide whether to intervene or face Big Louie. We'd monitor from a van. At the precise moment, Carly would go in, catch them, and demand a divorce. Jim would have to choose between signing or facing exposure. Carly smiled and said, "You're doing this for me as much as for yourself, aren't you? I'm starting to really like this side of you." Over the next 2 days, we got everything prepared. Carly met with Sally Hawk, our attorney, who insisted on being present when Jim received his divorce papers. There was no doubt she'd secure his signature as the state's most renowned divorce attorney. Sally thought our plan was ingenious and mentioned how we'd sent many clients her way over the years. She was a good friend and wanted to be part of the excitement. Big Louie was ready. We paid him up front and promised him an extra $500 if everything went smoothly. He simply grinned and said, "No problem." I drove to the motel and booked a room for Wednesday afternoon. The receptionist mentioned I'd need to vacate by 4 p.m. as the room was reserved. I met up with Carly, and we had lunch at a pleasant restaurant. To my surprise, my ex-sister-in-law was there with a man who wasn't her husband. I pointed her out to Carly, who asked if it would affect our plans. I assured her that since Karen didn't know her, we could enjoy our meal without concern. When Karen noticed me, she looked stunned, as if caught in the act. She was visibly uneasy, likely wondering who Carly was. Carly looked stunning. Her top left little to the imagination with no bra, and her skirt was about 4 inches above the knee. She quickly understood the situation, moved to the seat next to me, and kissed me deeply, ensuring everyone could see. "Do you think that caught anyone's attention?" she asked, smiling before kissing me again. She only stopped when the server made a sound. I turned to the server and said, "She's gorgeous, isn't she?" He nodded. "Yes, sir, she is." I looked at Carly and said, "You're mine, aren't you, sweetheart?" She replied with a smile, "Only yours, baby. Only yours." I hoped that was true, but I knew she was putting on a display to fuel Karen's gossip with Rachel. Karen never approached us. I wondered why. Carly and I finished lunch and headed to an electronics store to buy the equipment we needed. As we left, she mentioned the restaurant kiss was genuine and not just despite my ex-sister-in-law. Wednesday morning arrived, and Carly and I were both tense. Revenge schemes can be nerve-wracking. Timing was vital, and there was no margin for error. Carly met with Sally to ensure the divorce documents were in order. I set up the video equipment in the motel room and parked the rental van nearby so it wouldn't appear suspicious. That evening, Carly and I went to see Big Louie. He was visibly impressed when he saw her. "Man, who's this knockout?" he asked. I introduced Carly, who was a bit nervous. Big Louie had that effect on people, standing nearly 6.5 feet tall and weighing around 320 pounds. He was darker than the ace of spades but extremely intelligent, holding a master's in business and a multi-million-dollar fortune. I knew because I managed his finances. Seeing Carly's apprehension, he reassured her. "Don't worry, little lady. No one's going to hurt you. Kevin's my friend, and I respect him. I'll make sure you're safe." She relaxed a bit and thanked him. Louis said he and his associates would show up around 5:15 p.m., giving Jim a few minutes to prepare. Earlier, Carly used her computer expertise to email Jim and Rachel from an anonymous account. "Sweetheart, I have a surprise for you tonight. Don't ask questions when you arrive. Just go along with it to make it even more special. Let's not communicate for the rest of today. I want this night to be unforgettable. Love you." At 4:45 p.m., Carly and I got into the van and waited. Right at 5 p.m., Jim arrived and went inside. We were anxious. This was a pivotal moment for us. At 5:15 p.m., we saw Louie, Sally, and Sue enter. When they knocked, we activated our cameras, positioned one above the lights and the other hidden in the fire alarm. The footage quality from the pinhole camera was excellent. I made a mental note to collect the equipment the next day. Our anxiety spiked when Louie knocked on the door. Jim opened it with a confused, "Who are you?" Louie responded confidently, "I'm here, paid to bring my girls for some entertainment." Jim hesitated. "There must be a mistake," Louie smirked, having second thoughts. "Are you Jim Nelson?" Jim confirmed his identity, but added that he wasn't expecting anyone. Louie stepped inside and said, "We don't do refunds. Let's get started." He gestured for the women to approach Jim. As the scene unfolded, we captured it all on camera. Jim, still uneasy, believed Rachel had arranged this surprise due to an email he had received, so he reluctantly went along. Sally and Sue, the women Louie had brought, were both striking and confident. However, unknown to Jim, they carried a contagious ailment. The women eased Jim onto the bed, setting the stage as Louis sat back, observing quietly. Carly, watching from the monitor, experienced mixed emotions. Grief over her husband's infidelity, but satisfaction that her plan was playing out. Suddenly there was a knock, and Louis opened the door to find Rachel standing there, puzzled by the scene before her. She stepped inside, thinking Jim's email about a surprise might involve this. Louis calmly told her to join in, assuring her he was only there to supervise. Hesitant but persuaded by the circumstances, Rachel let herself be led into the scene. Every moment was recorded, audio and video, capturing their actions. Rachel's initial shock eased as she assumed Jim's plan was at work. Sally and Sue eventually finished and left, leaving Jim and Rachel unaware of the repercussions awaiting them. The door of our van opened to Sally Hawk, our lawyer, who checked the feed. Jim and Rachel's night continued on camera, setting in motion consequences they wouldn't see coming. Carly and Sally approached the room, tension thick in the air. Carly pushed the door open and entered first. "You piece of trash! You're a lying, cheating idiot!" Carly screamed, unleashing every curse she could muster. Her voice quaked with fury. "I want a divorce, and I want it now." Inside, Jim and Rachel froze in shock, caught red-handed. They were utterly speechless, scrambling mentally for an escape that didn't exist. Carly turned her glare toward Jim and continued, her voice colder now. "Why, Jim? Why wasn't I enough for you? I suspected your affair and hoped you'd stop, but you didn't. You kept going. I'm done. I want a divorce immediately." As Carly's words hung in the air, Sally stepped into the room with calm authority. She stood beside Carly and addressed Jim directly. "Jim, meet my lawyer, Sally Hawk," Carly said. "She'll explain the divorce terms. I expect the process to start tonight, so I can finally be free of you and your girlfriend." Jim and Rachel scrambled to gather their clothes. There was no time to conceal their shame, let alone shower. They likely didn't care, already reeking of guilt. Sally cleared her throat, taking over. "I'm Sally Hawk, Carly's lawyer," she said firmly, her tone professional. "The terms are straightforward. Listen carefully. 1. Carly will return home tonight and have 24 hours to pack her belongings. During this time, you, Jim, will not be present. After that, she will never come back. Since the apartment is under your name, you will retain it. 2. You will cover all expenses incurred up to today, including any joint credit card debts. Carly will return all joint cards tonight and will not use them again. Any cards in her name are her sole responsibility. 3. Each of you will manage and insure your own vehicles moving forward. 4. Carly will withdraw $8,000 from your shared savings account tomorrow. Retirement accounts will remain separate. You keep yours, valued at $80,000, and Carly keeps hers, valued at $15,000. If you accept these terms, sign the document tonight. The agreement is final and binding, with no changes permitted. Carly has already signed. Now sign here under husband." Sally placed the document and pen in front of Jim, her eyes unwavering. Jim asked, "What if I don't sign tonight? What will you do?" Sally replied, "This offer will be off the table in 5 minutes. When I leave, then we'll take this to court, where we'll seek these terms plus half of your pension. This is in your best interest. I suggest you take it." Carly opened the closet and took a tape from the VCR. "This is today's recording. It will be part of the divorce proceedings." Jim retorted, "I'm not foolish. You can't use that. It was recorded without my consent." Sally laughed. "You really are a fool. We won't use it in the divorce, but we will make copies and send them to your company and corporate headquarters. I'm sure they don't appreciate their married employees having affairs." Jim stepped forward, but Big Louie walked back into the room. "You weren't planning to hurt my friends, were you, Jim?" Jim backed off. Sally continued, "Well, Jim, you have 3 minutes to decide, and then we're out of here." Rachel leaned toward Jim and whispered, "Jim, Sally Hawk was my husband's lawyer, and I didn't get a cent. She's one of the best in the state. You should take this deal, or you'll be in serious trouble. Plus, we'll lose our jobs if this tape gets out." Sally looked at Jim. 1 minute left, and we'll see you in court." As they started to leave, Jim yelled, "Wait, I'll sign, but only if I get the tape." Carly glanced at Big Louie and handed him the tape. "After Sally and I leave, you can give him the tape." She passed Louie an envelope containing the promised $500 bonus. Sally reiterated, "This agreement is final. If you have questions, contact me." You are not to bother Carly under any circumstances, or I'll have you arrested. If you understand, sign the document, and I'll give you a copy, the tape, and the joint credit cards. Carly has 24 hours to collect her belongings. The divorce is no fault and must be finalized within 2 months. Jim signed, and Sally gave him a copy. Carly and Sally left a short time later. Big Louie handed Jim the tape and exited, joining his associates. Carly and Sally returned to the van, both smiling. Carly kissed me briefly. Everything seemed fine until Sally said, "Kevin, until the divorce is final, you can't see Carly. No one can suspect anything. Once you're not involved, everything should go smoothly. I understand there are issues with recent credit card charges, but we have documentation. Unless someone accuses Carly of bank fraud, we should be safe." I left Jim's pension untouched, so banks would pursue him if he declared bankruptcy. Carly only has $8,000 to withdraw tomorrow. I recommend keeping that money in the same bank, but only under your name to avoid complications. Sally continued. After the divorce, you'll have no restrictions and can be together. It'll be your choice. Kevin, you said your employer wanted you to open a brokerage in another state for a while. I suggest you take that assignment soon. Carly will be fine, and I'll look out for her. Unfortunately, right now, you're Carly's biggest risk. I can't force you, but I strongly recommend it. Carly started crying, and I hugged her. I knew Sally was right. I was now the only weak link. I kissed Carly goodbye and told her to contact me once the divorce was done. I would wait for her. Sally and Carly left the van, and Sally drove Carly home to collect her things. They had already hired a moving truck for her that day. Sally told me, "Call me if you need updates on Carly or have any questions." After they left, I checked the monitor and saw Jim and Rachel had also gone. I returned to the room, collected my equipment, and grabbed a spare copy of the tape just in case. It's amusing how no one considers a backup copy. 2 cameras, 2 recorders. I packed up and went home, happy for Carly but sad for myself. The next day, I talked to my boss about the temporary assignment and planned to fly to Chicago on Friday. I hoped everything would work out for Carly. She deserved happiness. It seemed like she got her revenge, and I was the one left out. Helping Carly had been rewarding. I truly loved her. Once in Chicago, I immersed myself in work, launching a new brokerage firm. Off the clock, I sat in my room, thinking of Carly. During the first 2 weeks, I kept wondering if she was okay. I called Sally Hawk one day, and she was pleased to hear from me. She said, "Everything's progressing as anticipated." Jim hired a lawyer to contest the divorce, but his lawyer warned him that challenging Sally would be a mistake. Jim accused Carly of setting him up but couldn't provide evidence, Sally told me. I warned Jim that if he kept accusing Carly, I'd sue him. I'm tired of his complaints. She also mentioned Jim's lawyer said both he and Rachel had contracted a contagious condition. They needed treatment and couldn't be intimate until cleared, or they'd risk reinfecting each other. That made me smile. Finally, Sally said, Carly moved into a nice apartment near her job. She took about half the items from the old place to furnish her new home. She's been advised not to mention you to avoid suspicion. Of course she's not dating, but it's only been a couple of weeks. Carly told me privately that she misses you and thinks you're a great guy. I wish I could say that time in Chicago flew by, but it didn't. I didn't feel any better than before the entire revenge plan started. At least back then, I could see Carly passing by each day. I went to Michigan to visit my parents for Thanksgiving and stayed for a few days. It was pleasant to be with family. I took my sister out Christmas shopping and bought gifts for everyone. At a jewelry store, I purchased an engagement ring for Carly, hoping she would say yes someday. After Thanksgiving, I returned to Chicago, expecting to stay another 3 weeks. In Chicago, I was surrounded by cold winds and solitude. The city lights were beautiful, but it wasn't the same without someone to share them with. Together with the new agents, I built the business from the ground up. Things were progressing well, with many clients starting investments before year-end. When I got back to Ohio, my boss met with me. He praised the success of the new company. From a work perspective, everything was excellent. I just hoped my personal life would follow suit. 2 days before Christmas, I returned to my apartment and called Sally Hawk. "Kevin, great to hear from you," Sally said. I told her about how well things went in Chicago, and she shared the divorce was finalized 2 days ago. I asked, "Can I have Carly's phone number?" She paused and said, "I can't give it to you, but I'll call Carly and let her know you're back." I thanked her, and she wished me good luck. I wasn't sure how to feel. Carly was divorced now, but I had no idea what she'd been thinking about in the months since I left for Chicago. I decided to go to our favorite lunch spot, hoping to see her there. My friend Marka noticed me and waved. "Kevin, it's so good to see you," she said. I invited her to sit with me, hoping to get some updates. Marka started, "I heard you were in Chicago opening a new agency." "Yes," I said. We talked as usual and discussed the upcoming holidays. Marka mentioned her family and how everything was going well. I asked, "Is Carly still with the company?" "Yes," she replied, "but she and her husband divorced recently. It happened fast, and she seemed to take it hard. She doesn't look happy now. She's been avoiding dating and staying focused on work. Everyone feels for her and hopes she finds the right guy someday. She deserves more than a cheating husband caught with another woman." "Is Carly working today?" I asked. "She was here earlier but got a call about an hour ago. She skipped lunch and left for the afternoon." "She won't be back until next week," Marka said. I wished her a Merry Christmas and asked her to send my regards to her family. Then I headed home. There was nothing on the answering machine, and I was starting to feel down when the phone rang. I jumped to answer, hoping it was Carly, but it was just a telemarketer. Frustrated, I slammed the phone down on the table. I knew Carly might call me about her investments, though it wasn't necessary. Other agents could have updated her account while I was away, and new business was shared among us. I called the office to check on any updates for Carly's accounts, but it went straight to voicemail. I glanced at my watch. It was 5:12 p.m. Damn, I muttered. The office would be closed until Monday for the holidays. I was left in the dark over the holiday weekend. "Damn it," I said, feeling my emotions spiral. Did I have her, or did I lose her? I thought. I needed to know something. How was I supposed to get through this weekend without any answers? The phone rang again, and I ran to pick it up. It was Sally, my lawyer. "I heard you're back," she said, "and I wanted to let you know the divorce is final. Jim can't file any more motions. He tried, but they were all denied. He even had to cash out over half his retirement fund to cover credit card debt. Sally, you're a great friend and incredible to work with. Thanks for the update." "Merry Christmas," I said. There was a knock at the door. It was Mary, my neighbor, who picked up my mail and cleaned my apartment while I was away. I invited her in for a moment. Mary was a kind older woman who cleaned apartments for extra income and usually cleaned mine twice a week. She handed me my mail and gave me a tray of homemade cookies for the holidays. "Wait a second, Mary. I have something for you," I said. I went inside and came back with an envelope containing 3 crisp $100 bills. "Thank you, Kevin," she said with a warm smile. After she left, I thought, the world needs more wonderful people like Mary. Feeling hungry, I called the local pizzeria and ordered a pizza for delivery. I didn't feel like going out, so I also asked them to pick up a 12-pack of Miller Lite. That's one of the advantages of living in a small town, those familiar hometown conveniences. I turned on the TV to catch the news while I waited. About 30 minutes later, the doorbell rang. I got up, expecting the delivery, but when I opened the door, Carly was standing there with a broad smile. Tears filled my eyes, and I said, "I thought you were the pizza guy." She laughed. "Sorry to disappoint. No pizza, just me." I pulled her into the living room, hugging her tightly. "God, you feel amazing." "I missed you, Carly." "I've missed you so much," I said. She started to say something, but the doorbell rang again. This time it was the pizza delivery with my beer and food. I paid quickly and shut the door. I turned to Carly and said, "You're hungry, right? We have pizza and beer." I held them up, and she just smiled. "You know, you're really funny," she said. I had everything planned out to say, and now I can't think straight. "I have a couple of things to tell you, then we'll eat while it's hot. I know you dislike cold pizza." "Okay, big guy, I missed you too. In case you didn't know, I'm officially divorced. I just heard today that you were back. I didn't want to leave a message. It felt too impersonal. I needed to see you in person. I left work early after Sally called to say you were home, and I got you a Christmas gift. You'll see it after dinner. It's not every day you treat me to dinner, so let's eat." As I grabbed paper plates, I asked, "What did you get me?" She just gave me her characteristic smile and said, "You'll see. Now, eat your pizza and pass the beer." She laughed. We talked while we ate, catching up on her work and my experience with the new agency. We avoided any serious topics. When we finished, Carly looked at me and asked, "Are you ready for your gift?" I grinned. "Yes, where is it?" She held up a small bag, about lunchbox sized. "Be right back," she said, leaving the room. I set the pizza and beer on the counter and reached into the drawer for the ring I bought her, slipping it into my pocket. "Are you ready?" She called from the bedroom. "I think so," I replied. She walked in and handed me the bag. "You can unwrap it if you want." She was dressed in a lacy red silk bra and matching underwear, with a small red bow in her hair. "I'm no longer married, so this isn't cheating. If you want your gift, let's go to the bedroom so you can unwrap it." Tears filled my eyes as I looked at her, the woman I'd wanted for so long, offering herself to me. "On one condition," I said, pulling out the ring. "If you marry me." She burst into tears and ran into my arms. Hugging her warm, soft body, she said, "Yes, I'll marry you. Yes, yes, yes. I love you so much," I whispered. I lifted her and carried her to the bedroom, gently laying her on the bed. She looked up at me, eyes full of warmth and anticipation. This was our first time, and I wanted it to be special. I kissed her neck softly, savoring every moment. She sighed my name, her hands resting above her head as we moved together in perfect synchronicity. Afterward, we held each other close. She whispered, "Kevin, I love you so much," before we both fell asleep, wrapped in each other's embrace. When I woke up, the room was dark. It felt surreal, waking up next to Carly, knowing she was finally mine. I got up to use the bathroom, and Carly stirred, rummaging through my dresser to find one of my long t-shirts, which she put on. Seeing her in it made me smile. It had never looked better on anyone. While she freshened up in the shower, I put the leftover pizza in the fridge. It always tasted better the next day. We sat down and shared the leftover pizza, talking about our future plans. I asked, "When do you want to get married?" "As soon as possible," she said, her eyes sparkling. "I don't want to wait." It was around 10 p.m., and I picked up the phone to call Sally Hawk at home. "Kevin, what's going on?" she asked, recognizing my number. "Sally, Carly and I need your help," I said, excitement in my voice. "What's going on, Kevin?" "I'll help if I can," she said, sounding amused and curious. "Carly and I want to get married as soon as possible, but tomorrow is Christmas Eve. Do you know a judge who can help us?" Sally laughed. "So Carly finally called you, huh? I'm so happy for you both. Meet me tomorrow at the courthouse. We'll get your marriage certificate and then head to my house. My husband, Judge Hawk, will marry you. See you at 9 a.m. sharp." The next morning, Carly, looking beautiful, and I, dressed in a suit, met Sally at the courthouse. We secured our marriage certificate and then headed to Sally's house. Her husband, a kind man with a warm presence, officiated our wedding. After the vows, Carly smiled at me as Sally said, "Congratulations, you two. This is a special day." We decided to drive to Michigan afterward to surprise my family. When we arrived, their joy was palpable. They welcomed Carly warmly, treating her as though she had always been part of the family. Christmas turned out better than I ever imagined. After the holiday, we returned home, excited to start our life together. We both had work to return to, and Carly needed to move her things into my apartment. Each evening after work, we moved a few of her belongings, laughing and enjoying our time together. Her co-workers were happy for her, saying, "The old Carly is back." Marka was surprised to learn I was Carly's new husband and laughed. "I never would have guessed. Kevin, you always seem so serious." Carly smiled and assured her, "Don't worry, Marka. He's just a big puppy, and I love him very much." With New Year's Eve approaching, we looked forward to the grand party that all the prominent business people would attend. "Honey," I said, "do you want to go to the party of the year? It's our chance to be seen together. I want to show off my beautiful wife, plus even our ex-spouses might be there." Carly's eyes lit up. "Kevin, I love you, and I want everyone to know." "Yes, let's go to the New Year's party, my dear husband." At the party, Carly looked stunning in a red blouse that matched her lace bra and silk underwear. The blouse had a low neckline that showcased her figure, paired with a black miniskirt trimmed with lace, with its thigh-high slit. She looked incredible, tastefully daring. Everyone wanted us at their table. My boss, Carly's friends, and my few close friends all waved us over. We chose to sit with Sally and Judge Hawk. I leaned over to Sally and said, "I've never seen a lawyer look so great." She laughed. "Thanks, Kevin." They introduced us to the others at the table, mostly judges and their wives, who all seemed friendly. The music was loud, perfect for New Year's Eve. Carly and I danced to every slow song. Though other men asked her to dance, she replied, "Not this year. I only want to dance with my husband." This was our time together. The only exceptions were a dance I shared with Sally and one Carly shared with the judge, our special friends. While dancing, we moved near Karen, my ex-wife's sister. We almost bumped into Karen and her husband on the packed dance floor. "Oh my God, it's Kevin," she exclaimed. I smiled politely. "Good evening, Karen. Happy New Year." I introduced Carly. "Carly, this is Karen and her husband." Karen's husband shook my hand. "Bob, nice to meet you," he said. Carly gave him her warm smile. "Nice to meet you, Bob and Karen." Karen's eyes shifted as she took in the introduction. Carly added, "Didn't we meet at Robson's restaurant on Old Route 40 a couple of months ago?" Bob shook his head. "No, that place is too pricey for us." Karen turned pale. "Nice meeting you," she said quickly. "We should get back to our table." We watched as Karen hurried to Jim and Rachel, clearly eager to share what she saw. Rachel's face flushed when she looked over, and Jim nearly fell out of his chair trying to get a glimpse. We could hear Rachel say, "Oh my God, Jim, he's with your ex-wife." Jim muttered, "That fool set us up. They took us for over $100,000 and we ended up with an STD. How did they know everything?" Rachel glared. "Kevin told me he'd get even one day," Jim grumbled. "Maybe we can take them back to court," Karen snapped. "Stop it, both of you. Do you see who they're sitting with? Sally Hawk and a table full of judges. And Jim, Kevin could strike you senseless. He's a real man, and she's a real woman. They make a perfect pair." It was past midnight, and the crowd was thinning. Sally and the judge said their goodbyes and wished us well. Carly and I danced one last song before sitting at a booth near Rachel, Jim, and their group. Carly leaned in and whispered, "Kevin, are you ready?" Puzzled, I asked, "Ready for what? Do you want to go home, honey?" "No, Kevin, are you ready for your revenge?" she said, slipping her lacy red silk underwear into my pocket like a handkerchief, loud enough for the nearby table to hear. She said, "Happy New Year, darling." We heard Jim's chair scrape the floor as Carly leaned in and whispered, "Who said revenge isn't sweet?" I kissed her and said, "Happy New Year."